Building a compliance program from a blank page can feel daunting. Where exactly do you start, and how do you know whether what you have built is actually any good? The reassuring news is that this is a well-trodden path, with a widely recognized set of building blocks and a sensible order to tackle them in. In the next few minutes, we will walk through the first steps that lay a strong, credible foundation. Let us start with what a compliance program actually is. In plain terms, it is the system of policies, controls, training, and oversight a business uses to follow the laws and regulations that apply to it, and to catch problems early, while they are still small and fixable. It is less a single document and more an operating system that runs quietly in the background of everything the business does. The aim is not perfection on day one, but a repeatable way to know what applies to you, do something sensible about it, and show your work. So why build one at all? Beyond staying on the right side of the rules, a working program earns trust. It reassures customers that their information and their money are handled with care. It gives investors, partners, and regulators confidence that the business is run deliberately rather than by luck. And it increasingly helps you win larger deals, because enterprise buyers often ask how you manage risk before they will sign a contract. Seen that way, a thoughtful program is as much a growth enabler as it is a safeguard. Handled well, compliance stops being a brake on the business and becomes part of how it earns the right to grow. So what does good look like from the outside? A useful way to think about it borrows from how regulators tend to evaluate a program. They generally come back to three practical questions. Is the program well designed for the risks this particular business actually faces? Is it adequately resourced and empowered, with real authority and budget behind it, rather than a job title and little else? And, most importantly, does it actually work in practice, day to day, rather than only on paper? That framing mirrors long-standing guidance from the United States Department of Justice on evaluating corporate compliance programs. The takeaway is simple: a binder on a shelf is not a program. What counts is a system people genuinely use. The good news is that you do not have to invent the ingredients from scratch. There is a widely used reference for what an effective program contains. The United States Federal Sentencing Guidelines describe 7 hallmarks of an effective compliance and ethics program, and many organizations treat those 7 as a practical checklist, whatever their size or sector. They are general best practice rather than a line-by-line legal requirement for every business, but they map the territory reliably. Here are the 7, in plain language. First, written standards and procedures, usually anchored by a code of conduct that sets expectations clearly and simply. Second, high-level leadership and genuine oversight of the program, so that senior people, not just a junior hire, actually own it. Third, reasonable efforts to keep known wrongdoers out of positions of real authority. Fourth, training and communication, so the standards are understood and remembered, not merely published. Fifth, monitoring and auditing, paired with a confidential reporting channel that people can use without fear of retaliation. Sixth, consistent enforcement, including sensible incentives and fair discipline applied evenly across the organization. And seventh, responding appropriately whenever a problem surfaces, and taking real steps to stop it from happening again. Read those together and a clear picture emerges. An effective program is written down, owned from the top, taught to the people who need it, monitored honestly, enforced fairly, and improved whenever something goes wrong. Those are the pillars you are working to stand up, in whatever practical form best fits your organization. A 2-person startup and a global enterprise can satisfy the same hallmarks in very different ways, and both can be entirely right. Knowing the destination is one thing, taking the first steps is another. Here is a common, sensible order that many teams follow when they are starting out. Treat it as a general playbook rather than a prescription for any one business. 1. Secure leadership buy-in and name an owner. Someone needs clear, single-point responsibility, and the program needs visible support from the top to be taken seriously by everyone else. 2. Run a compliance risk assessment. This is the cornerstone, and it is worth doing carefully. You map which regulations apply to you, based on the jurisdictions you operate in, your industry, and the kind of data you hold, and you get honest about where the real exposure sits. 3. Prioritize by risk. You cannot do everything at once, so you deliberately start where the stakes are highest and the gaps are widest, rather than wherever feels easiest. 4. Draft your foundational policies and a code of conduct, written in language your team can actually read and follow without a lawyer beside them. 5. Roll out training, so the policies live in people's everyday decisions rather than in a shared drive nobody opens. 6. Set up a confidential reporting channel, so concerns surface early and internally, rather than late and externally. And 7. Monitor, measure, and improve, treating the program as something that evolves over time. Running through all of this is one habit that ties it together: document everything. Keep records of your decisions, your training, and your reviews, because regulators and auditors generally expect evidence that the program is real and working, not simply assurances that it is. A handful of predictable missteps trip up brand new programs, and each one is easy to sidestep once you can see it coming. The first is trying to cover everything at once. Ambition is admirable, but a program that tries to address every conceivable rule on day one usually stalls under its own weight and finishes none of it. Starting with your highest risks is almost always the stronger, more sustainable move. The second is buying a stack of policy templates that no one ever reads. Templates can be a perfectly good starting point, but a policy only counts if the people it governs understand it and follow it. A shorter document that genuinely shapes behavior beats a polished one that sits unopened in a folder. The third is treating compliance as a one-off project with a finish line. In reality, it is an ongoing system that needs regular attention as your business grows, your risks shift, and the rules around you change. What you set up this year will almost certainly need revisiting the next. And the fourth is failing to keep records that show the program is working. If you cannot demonstrate what you did and why you did it, it becomes very hard for anyone, inside the company or outside it, to see the effort you have actually put in. Good documentation is what quietly turns everyday activity into credible evidence. Put simply, start focused, keep it practical, treat it as a living system, and write things down as you go. If this gave you a clearer starting point, consider subscribing to Compliance Decoded. We break down one regulation and one practical topic at a time, in plain language, so you can build with genuine confidence. And we would love to hear from you. If you are setting up a program right now, what is the one step you feel least sure about? Tell us in the comments, and we may tackle it in a future video. Educational overview only, not legal or compliance advice. Consult a qualified professional for your situation.